Hi there, everyone. It's a fresh edition of Weather for Weather Geeks here on the 20th day of November 2017. It's Monday. It's a short work week for many, with Thanksgiving coming up in a few days. And we'll talk about the weather this week and beyond as usual in this video. But first, I want to do a little review of the month so far. And boy, what a day on Saturday. You know, I was looking at the computer model data late last week, and a lot of them were pointing to 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches. And I thought that was reasonable, but at the same time, a lot of the modeling's been overdone, predicting the amount of precipitation lately. Well, they were underdone on Saturday. 2.06 at the airport. I had closer to 3 at my house. Some places around the 224 corridor certainly had close to 3 inches worth of rain Friday night into Saturday and Saturday night. Now, for the month so far, 5.19, a whopping 3.1 inches above average. And if you think this is particularly wet for November, well, you would be right. With that 2.06 we had at the airport on Saturday, that puts us now in fourth place on the list of wettest Novembers. Oops, let me take that off and move my camera out of the way here. Wettest Novembers on record, only trailing 1950, 1966, 1985. 1950, an interesting month. A lot of this, what you see there at 5.39, that wasn't all rain. That was partly a result of the tremendous amount of snow we had during the famous 1950 blizzard across the region. And when you melted down that snow, you end up with this. When we talk about precipitation in the cold weather season, a lot of times we'll be talking about rain and liquid equivalent of the snow. If you melted the snow down, approximately how much rain would there be? So, you know, when we're talking about precipitation and not snow totals in the winter, sometimes that's what we're referring to. Well, speaking of snow, this was sent in by Tim over in Greenville of the weekend snow yesterday. And forecast worked out pretty well. Some places in the far northern reaches of our viewing area, northern Mercer, northern Trumbull, got 1 inch or 2 inches worth of snow. It looks to me, he didn't include an accumulation in his email, but grass looks covered mostly, so there could be a slushy 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches worth of snow in this picture. Elsewhere, flurries. That was about it. Little occasional dustings on car tops, and that was about it. Certainly that's what I saw in Boardman. Not much more than a little candy coating on the windshield. All right, the approximate snow depth. Sometimes I think this is a little off. This seems reasonable to me. Certainly downwind of Lake Erie, they did pretty well yesterday. From Erie County over into Chautauqua and Cattaraugus counties, southern Erie County in New York. That's south of Buffalo. They got a handful of inches up there. And again, some parts of Mercer County in our viewing area did, it looks like, picked up a slushy inch or maybe 2 locally. All right, big picture for your Tuesday. The sunset is at 4:59. It's before 5 o'clock. 9 hours, 41 minutes of daylight. We're going for a high of 52 tomorrow. That would be 5 above the average. The records, 1951, 71. Back in 1930 for the 21st of November. All right, heading back to the present tense now and talking about what's going on across the country. And with the exception of the West Coast, there's not much going on across the country this evening. They have some rain from San Francisco on north towards Eureka, California. Some rain and mountain snow in parts of the northern Rockies. Elsewhere, kind of ho-hum. And our weather will continue to be ho-hum tomorrow. Again, going for the lower 50s with a gusty breeze developing tomorrow afternoon. Now, this front coming our way is a fairly strong one. It's going to be moisture-starved at first, but it's going to pick up a little moisture as it moves into Ohio tomorrow evening. And I think it'll start to rain a little bit around mid-evening tomorrow. And then we expect to transition over to snow showers for at least a few hours tomorrow night, followed by a lot of clouds and kind of a typical fall sky coming up on Wednesday. Now, I don't think the snow tomorrow night's much of a big deal. Here's a look at our computer model spread, showing generally 1 inch or less. The GFS, that red line, would suggest 1.5 inches at the airport anyway. I think that's too high. I think 0.5 inch, the way I worded it on the app, was little or no accumulation in most spots. Temperatures are going to be borderline. It's going to be mostly above freezing when it's snowing, even though it's at night. Not real concerned about the snow tomorrow night. Wednesday, again, sea of clouds for most of the day. Kind of a typical November sky, stratocumulus clouds, maybe a flurry first thing in the morning. Then we'll clear things out for Wednesday night. It'll be cold to start Thanksgiving. I've got a low Wednesday night of 22 in my forecast. So early risers on Thanksgiving will need to bundle up if you're heading out, doing some traveling, heading to friends or relatives for the Thanksgiving holiday. But the day itself, pretty nice. The sun will be out. It's going to be chilly, not much better than the 30s, but a pretty nice day. And, you know, Wednesday is traditionally one of the busiest travel days of the season across the U.S., with the Sunday after Thanksgiving being up there as well. And Wednesday looks pretty good, not only locally, but in most of the country. Again, we'll be fairly cloudy, but no precipitation concerns really on Wednesday. If you're traveling to Pittsburgh or Cleveland, or even, again, across most of the country, very few weather makers out there on Thursday. All right, or on a Wednesday, I should say. Our Thursday forecast, our Thanksgiving forecast, hasn't changed much since late last week. We're talking sunshine, not much better than the upper 30s, though. A handful of degrees below the average. Really nothing, too remarkable about that. I meant to show you Thanksgiving weather facts. Let me grab that graphic here. Bear with me for just a second. I'll show this a few times this week. Here's a look at Thanksgiving history across our region. We've had some ups and downs over the last handful of years. The warmest Thanksgiving on record was just 2 years ago, 63 back in 2015. Last year was not as warm, a little bit of damp weather, 48. This year will be our coldest since 2014. Notice we had really cold back-to-back Thanksgivings, 2013, 2014. Those winters were very, very cold as a whole, but Thanksgiving in particular was cold. We even had a couple of inches of snow on Thanksgiving Day in 2014. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let me grab my browser here, because we want to talk just briefly about the longer range. It's Monday night. On Mondays and Thursdays, we get fresh editions of the European model long-range forecasts. Sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're dead wrong, like most long-range forecasts. But they have more skill than a lot of long-range models, so I like to show these, especially at this time of the year. Here's a look at the precipitation anomalies on the latest run for the next month, or roughly 32 days. Actually, fairly dry picture painted here. This would be kind of anti-La Nina. Typically, La Nina in the cold weather season oftentimes means above average precipitation. So this would kind of go against that a little bit, showing these dry anomalies across the region. So we'll see if that works out. I'm a little skeptical of that. When we talk about temperatures, here's a look at the European model temperatures for the next month or so. Pretty cool signal here, pretty cold, as we go into the month of December with the warmth out west. Now, this is quite different than the U.S. modeling, which is here, keeping most of the cold anomalies up in Canada and keeping a lot of the lower 48 states not too bad, perhaps the coldest relative to average in the upper Midwest and across New England. So there's a pretty striking difference between these two. December's forecast is a tough one still. I'm going to be doing a revision of our winter forecast on December 1st, including the month of December individually, and got our work cut out for us. There's a lot of conflicting signals out there, a particularly tough long-range forecast. The models have done particularly poorly lately with the longer range, and that trend may continue for a while, making our job more difficult. The models are just tools. We don't take them verbatim, but it's always nice when they have they're singing the same song. When they're all singing kind of out of tune, makes our job a little bit tougher. Thanks for watching tonight's Weather for Weather Geeks. I'll see you back here tomorrow night, and check out my updated forecast tonight on 21 News at 11. We'll see you then.